Hi, welcome to Paranormal Kativity. Today I want to put out there kind of a working theory, possibility, that I'm kind of playing around with whenever I came to a realization about one of the houses that I previously lived in. So I was doing research for videos and I just had this inspiration to where I was like, you know what? I want to research the house that I grew up in to see if there's a reason why it was so active. The one in mind was the home that I lived in for the longest period of time, from like second grade till I was like 20, where I experienced probably the most activity that I know of. Zero results. Like nothing that I could find at all. So it made me wonder, you know, maybe the house that I lived in before that might have some activity to it that could be a reason why I experienced things there. Now the only thing notable that I remember experiencing there was the Shadow Man. The Shadow Man came from whenever I lived in that house, and I believe I only saw it whenever I lived in that house. And as you guys know, or if you haven't caught up on some of my previous videos, my first encounter with anything paranormal was with the Shadow Man, and it's probably most likely related to my deceased uncle who had passed away near that time, and I was able to communicate messages back and forth between the Shadow Man and my mom to where the information I was getting was validated that it was information only he had knowledge of, okay? So I was thinking about that house and doing research, and it turns out that something really tragic happened in the area where I grew up. Now, it was years before I lived there, don't get me wrong. I lived in that house approximately from 88 until like 93. So I was pretty young. I did live in an apartment when I was a baby, but I have no memory of that really. I know stories of me like roaming around there, but nothing creepy at all. I figure out that there's this tragic event that happens, and I spend the rest of my day that day trying to locate exactly where this occurred. I verified with my dad what our address was when we lived there, and I was able to locate the exact address of where this tragedy occurred. When you look at it on Google Earth, it's like, here's my house, here is this very small other community that was involved, and here's two fields, and it happened in the fields between us. So now you guys want to know what happened, right? September 9th, 1969, a commercial aircraft carrying quite a lot of passengers collided with a private plane that was being piloted by a student. The student was trying to do a cross-country flight by himself, and the commercial airliner, for some reason they didn't see each other. They did collide in midair, and both of the planes went down. There were no survivors. 83 fatalities occurred simultaneously in this location. So already I was really freaked out that that was literally like in my own backyard. But I never knew that it existed. So what does that have to do with me living there in the 80s and early 90s, right? Because I mean, that's a big gap of time where nothing happened, at least not involving me. Well, what I was able to figure out is this location is still being investigated by paranormal investigators and researchers regularly, like still to this day, because they are getting so much compelling evidence at this location, especially in the form of EVPs. So I was just freaked out by this knowledge in the first place because I didn't know about it. So then I kind of questioned my own rationale with what I experienced at that house. Like, what if the Shadow Man was something related to that land and that area and that tragedy, and whatever I was communicating with was still able to communicate with my uncle and was validating that information for my mom, but was more or less being a channel instead of it actually being my uncle. Because to me, whenever my mom asked me to describe the Shadow Man, I always just said it looked like a shadow. That's it. So I never identified it as my uncle. I never called it my uncle's name. I just believed it was my uncle because of the information that I was able to get through it. Would I have been able to remember anything more than just the Shadow Man at this house? Like, I know for a long time whenever I lived there, I felt like I could more or less open and close that metaphorical door of being open to whatever I was able to see and experience, and then being able to shut it off at will. And so ever since then, I mean, you guys have seen my cabinet. Like, I go through and try and do so much research and personal development to try and reopen that side of me to the point that I can see and experience it the same way I did at that time. But is that connection so important to me because I know it was much deeper and much larger than just the Shadow Man experience? So then I went on to wonder, like, do I still have a connection to this place? Like, is some of the stuff that I feel has been connected and more drawn to me on a personal level than the places I've lived? Is that because I've had things connected to me from that period in my life? And from time to time I get glimpses of experiences related to that? I have no idea. But I wanted to put it out there and see if this theory or concept resonates with any of you. Like, do you think growing up next to some place that could potentially have that much activity, could that imprint on somebody a passion for the paranormal like I have? Could it be purely coincidental and not matter at all? Like, I just wanted to throw it out there to you guys, because just the fact that that happened so close to where I grew up blew my mind, and it just made me have a lot of questions, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the subject. I do plan on visiting this location at some point in the future and do some type of maybe spirit box, or I watched a video where people were using dowsing rods. I've never used them. I've never given them a whole lot of thought, but I wouldn't mind giving them a test run out there because it seems like the people in this video did, which I'm going to link below a video where somebody uses that and talks about the EVPs they've gotten. I also am going to link below news clips that are still online where you can see the crash. And I'm not gonna lie, it is graphic and gory because the other community that's on the other side of the field from where I lived is a trailer park, and they picked up remains from all over it and they show it on the news. So if you're not up for that, don't click. But it's just so weird and startling to me that that was so close to me. Like, you can still go to the field and pick up parts of planes. Like, I'm serious. Like, you can dig around in the dirt and get pieces of the wreckage still to this day. So there is talk of me going and checking out this location. Kiana may or may not have said she's interested in coming with me, so let me know what you guys think, if I should bring Kiana or if I should go solo and try and explore this on my own. I don't know. I am freaked out and I totally want to check it out in person. So let me know what you think. I really do appreciate your thoughts and just your opinions on if I'm just making something out of nothing, or if this really truly is kind of weird, because I felt like it really was. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for commenting and telling me all your thoughts, because that really does mean a lot to me. If you haven't yet, subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you get notified anytime I upload. I'm Kat, and this is Paranormal Kativity. Have a strange day. Bye!